this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. As some of you know, in my morning live stream, we got cut off because my hot water heater died, the electric version of the electric portion of it, and they had to change the thermostat and something else. So the power got taken off and the broadcast got closed before I finished. So I want to cover the ceasefire. So the Paris talks didn't go anywhere, and now there's talks in Qatar. Israel's there, Qatar is there, Hamas is there, America's there with the CIA directors, the Mossad director's there, and I don't even know who else is there. It's a whole mob scene. And they're trying to make a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Now, I want to just give you the general idea of the difficulties in getting there with a ceasefire. Hamas is looking for a temporary ceasefire over Ramadan. One good reason for that is it's a 1-month holiday for them, and they like to go to the mosques. And going to the mosques in the middle of the war would not be a healthy thing for them to do in terms of bombs, soldiers shooting rockets, everything else. So they want a temporary ceasefire. Israel wants all the hostages back in one fell swoop. Hamas is thinking of sending the hostages back in drips. Israel's not going to put up with that. That's one big obstacle. The second thing is Hamas is trying hard to stay in power. Because if they stay in power, they'll eventually be able to rebuild. And they want us to completely go out of Gaza, which means they'll try their hardest to rebuild more rocket launches, more rockets, more missiles, repair tunnels, whatever they can do to get themselves back in the war game. Now, Israel knows this. The world may not know it, or they may know it and they want it to happen. Israel knows this loud and clear. This has been the story with Hamas for many years. So Israel wants a 1-kilometer buffer zone built on Gaza land. It's a no man's land. It'll have fences, sensors, cameras, and everything else under the sun. Hold on a second. I gotta see what this is. One second. I think this is important. We'll just be quick. Okay, so they want to be back in the game. You see, the EU gives them money, America gives them money, the UN gives them money, many countries, the rich Arab countries give them money to the tune of $1 or $2 billion a year. They live the life of Riley. One of these Hamas guys is richer than Donald Trump. They're loaded with money, okay? And the money is going to stop if they could no longer present a viable threat to Israel. And they know that. They're going to be unemployed. So that means they'll have to try to leave Gaza, go to some other country, and work with some other terrorist group, and they're never going to get the amount of money they've been used to. So they don't want to do this. So Israel knows this, although the media doesn't talk about it. And Israel wants to pound them until they come into submission, which is the only thing that they understand. When it gets down to they're afraid of getting killed, put in jail, going on trial for October 7th massacre, then they're going to just throw the towel in. And they're not yet quite ready to do that. So there's a lot of pressure on Israel. The Houthis have upped their game, and the Hezbollah in Lebanon have upped their game to put pressure on Israel. Now, if there is a ceasefire, it's a reasonable assumption that Lebanon would cease fire also, but Israel may not let that happen because the 80,000 residents that evacuated from the northern border by Lebanon are not going to be able to go home unless Hezbollah is pushed back minimally to the Litani River, which is 17 or 18 miles, depending where in the river you measure, from the Israeli-Lebanon border. And Hezbollah does not want to do that. And Israel has been systematically bombing and destroying their locations, their facilities. For instance, in the last day, they saw a Hezbollah soldier, go into an ammo dump. Fine, now we know where the ammo dump is. We blew it up. We saw him go into a building, a military building. We blew it up. So this has been going on for many weeks, like 5-6 weeks at least. So there's not many of their structures left in this area between the Litani River and the Israeli border. So the more of these facilities we destroy and the more missile launches we take out, the easier it is for us to just roll the tanks in, which are already sitting on the border, and clean the infestation out. And then the people can return home that live up in the north by the Lebanon border. And that's what Israel is striving for, and Hezbollah is resisting that. So even if the Gaza war is over, it's probably at least a 75% chance, if not 99% chance, Israel's going to go in and clean out Hezbollah anywhere near the border, which is going to make it very, very much more difficult for them to shoot missiles, rockets, etc. into Israel. Many of the missiles they shoot are shoulder-fired anti-tank missiles, which have a very short range, maybe a mile or something like that. They're, handheld. You put them on your shoulder, and they're not going to go 11 or 12 miles or anything like that. Not a chance. A mile and a half, maybe I don't even think you get a mile and a half out of these things. So this is a dominant form of their attack that will be removed. The immature missiles like Katyushas will not work if they're 17 or 18 miles back. They have a range usually of up to 12 miles, many of them only 5 or 8 miles. So many of their weapons will not be deployable against Israel from a distance of 17 to 18 miles. And Israel knows this, and Hezbollah knows this. Yes, they have some more advanced missiles. But remember, when they're that far back, the flight time of the missile is longer, and the people have more than, 10 or 15 seconds to get into a bomb shelter. Not a lot longer, but longer. So this is another issue that Hezbollah doesn't want. So for Israel to do this, they can't just go in for a week and then pull out. They got to go in and probably stay there and create a buffer zone. The UNFIL troops are worthless. They're already in Lebanon, and they've failed miserably to stop Hezbollah from shooting rockets into Israel. It's been a complete failure. Okay? It hasn't worked. Okay? So they are, pitted against us. Okay? They can't stop our planes. They can't do anything to our Navy, which shoots missiles onto the land. They could probably damage tanks here and there, but, it'd be devastating. Our mobile artillery and our tanks and our towed artillery and our planes and our helicopters and our missiles and our Navy ships, pelting them with precision missiles and precision guided bombs and everything else, they're cooked. They're bluffing. And if they too fail to be able to present the threat to Israel, they will also be unable to raise money. Iran and these other countries aren't going to throw money at them like it's going out of style. So they can run a risk of being unemployed. And Lebanon is a very poor country in very bad financial shape. Their currency is not in the toilet, it's under the toilet. And their economy is miserable. Now, infiltrations into Israel are extremely unlikely. We have a whole army up there with armor, with aircraft, with artillery, with radar, with sensors, with drones for surveillance and attack. It's not much of a likelihood at all. Now, in the north, many of our communities have set up what, for lack of better English word, militias. We have one in my village where they're patrolling 24/7 with weapons, assault weapons, pistols. It doesn't matter. Pistols work, but a lot of assault weapons. And, we got backup from police and, it's, the infiltrators, go, 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 go. The infiltrators are not going to do well. It was a surprise attack when mysteriously and suspiciously our guard was down on October 7th. This is not the case today. It's not even near the case today. They'd be walking into their deaths if they tried to use paramotors. You're going to hear them, you're going to see them. You can't shoot from a paramotor and operate the paramotor at the same time. It's absurd. So we're going to hear them, we're going to see them, and our militias are going to be plugging them with holes. It's not like a parachutist. I mean, it is, but they come down slow. They don't come down at 120 miles an hour. They're coming down maybe like 6, 8 miles an hour, something like that. So they'd just be dead. And then when they land on the ground, they got to get out of the apparatus, which is going to take a few seconds. Then got to get the gun into deployment. Then they got to orient themselves. Where the heck am I? And then boom, 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 boom. They're gone. They're not going to. So we're not worried about infiltrators. They got another way of doing it with dirt bikes, motorcycles. But it's silly. It's not going to work. So that's why we want a buffer zone. So they can't shoot immature rockets at us and these anti-tank rockets. They're shooting those in people's houses. And they're not going to be able to come in with the motorcycles. We're going to have all kinds of surveillance in that buffer zone. And they're defeated and they're not worth much anymore. And who's going to be funding them? Iran's not going to want to give them weapons unless they can give them weapons that are going to effectively work beyond the 17, 18 miles. But at that kind of a distance, you really going to kind of need a guided missile unless you're going to start taking pot shots. And then we'll just push them back even further. In the 2006 war, we pushed them back 25 miles. We'll push them back 30, 40 miles. The Hamas war is over. We can really go to town on them. The Houthis may stop attacking ships, but I'd say it's 50-50. They've got a real axe to grind with America and the UK and other countries right now. And they may not stop just because the Lebanon war stops or the Hamas war stops. Or if the Hamas war stops and the Lebanon war continues, then they'll say, oh, we're going to do it for the sake of Lebanon. You see, the European countries are really mad right now at the Houthis. Mad, like you won't believe. Because of the shipping, okay, in the Red Sea. They're extremely upset. And they're getting ready to take action aside from America. India has 10 or 12 warships that are either there or headed there, and they're not under American or NATO or Europe control, just India. And that Modi from India has got an axe to grind with the Houthis, and he could be vicious, like them. Okay? Now, Europe is mad, and the EU is sending a whole contingent of military forces, probably predominantly Navy. At this point, they're assembling and getting ready to send it down there, and they're not submitting to America. And Italy's not submitting to America, and the only ones that are really submitting to America are very few. Denmark, UK, and America, and maybe one or two other countries. So this thing is turning into a cluster bomb. It's going to go flying all over the place. The only way they're going to really get the Houthis is a ground invasion. Now, the Houthis just brought in another 200,000 terrorist fighters from other, militia groups, probably in Iraq and Syria and stuff like that. So their numbers are someplace, I would guess, between 400 and 500,000, probably closer to 400,000. So a ground invasion is probably going to take, if you're talking, let's say these countries get together, which is highly conceivable that would happen, you're looking at, maybe 6 to 10 weeks to clear out the Houthis. They're going to have to go in there and do what we did in Gaza, and that's blow up a massive amount of tunnels. And there's going to be guerrilla fighting while they destroy the tunnels, unless they do it all by the air. The air attacks are not doing it. Iran has a ship there that's a electronic spy ship, and it targets the boats in the Red Sea with GPS coordinates that the Houthis launch at. And then the Iranians probably guide the missile, the drone boat, whatever it is, into the target. So the American coalition forces are afraid to blow that Iranian ship up. First they'd tell them to leave, and Iran would never leave, and then they'd have to blow it up. And then Iran's going to declare war. So what? They've already declared war, so what? Iran can't deploy a massive amount of their soldiers around the world, or even into Yemen or Syria. They need it to protect their own country. They well hate it. And they have revolution risks. So they're not going to send 200,000 soldiers or something like that. They can probably cough up 25, 40,000. That's about it. Many of their soldiers are conscripts. They're in service for 2 years. They're poorly trained. They're not having a high morale. They're not gung-ho warriors. They're not true believer, martyr jihadists. They're not that effective. They have no air force to shake a stick at, nor do they have a navy to shake a stick at. What the heck are they going to do? Launch the sleeper agents in America. If China, Russia, and North Korea agree with this plan, then the sleeper agents will be released. As you can see, China just sent a spy balloon or whatever kind of balloon it was across America, and they attacked the AT&T phone network, or somebody did, and they also attacked the pharmacies, hacking them offline. So, let's not take this and put it on the side. It's part of the whole picture. The Taliban is just licking their chops to invade Iran, and they have a big border, and the Taliban fight viciously. They're vicious, and they're true believers in martyrhood. They can't solve the border issue with Iran. It's not resolving, and there's a water issue, and they've been talking about going in. And America left them many, many weapons a few years ago when they evacuated. Will the Taliban conquer Iran? I don't know. Will they damage Iran severely? Oh, yeah. Will they break the morale of the Iranian people? Oh, yeah. Will they damage their military severely? Yeah. Will they wreck their economy? Yeah. It seems to me that what needs to happen is an attack on Iran. But the problem with attacking on Iran is they got to clean out Hamas first, which is 90%, 85, 90% accomplished. Then they have to clean out Lebanon, so Lebanon doesn't rise up and cause all kinds of problems.
Go inside.
And
Go on, come on. Go
then
inside.
they're ready to take on
Come
Iran. On. So the day is coming.
Shut up and get inside.
So the day is coming. And this will be part of Biden's snare, and he'll deploy a lot of American military to the Middle East. I don't think they quite know what to do about the Houthis. They're rather confused about this. Any idiot officer that's a major or colonel or something like that and went to war colleges knows that you're only going to get this stopped with a ground invasion. Now, they might get some gains if they get that Iranian warship out of there, but Iran's never going to voluntarily leave. Shut up! Never going to voluntarily leave. And they're going to call the bluff of America and the other countries to see if they'll actually blow the ship out of the water, which they could do. It's child's play for them to do it. It'd be, hands down. Nothing with nothing. Stealth jet, take off, 2 rockets hit the boat, goodbye boat. That's it. It's nothing. But then what does Iran do? Launch the sleeper agents on America. But India doesn't have the sleeper agents, and the EU does, but they don't seem to worry about it that much. India has a very, very strong Navy, Air Force, military, and they could crush Iran. It would be child's play for India to crush Iran. Now we got a war brewing between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's an ally of Israel, and Armenia's an ally of Iran. How's that going to go? Iran just gave Russia 400 missiles after they gave them a ton of drones. So that perpetuates the war in the Ukraine. And that costs NATO countries, Europe countries, America, and other countries a fortune every month in military equipment. So Iran is keeping Russia in the game. So they're furious over that. Okay? And some of the countries in Europe now are talking about starting a draft, conscription army. So the tensions are so high right now. I think that many of these nations are in confusion and they don't understand what to do. And Iran is even still in confusion. See, the way Iran fights is with proxies. They can't fight in their homeland. They can't stop the air attacks from the stealth bombers and the stealth jets and the missiles, sophisticated missiles. They can't stop it. So they use the proxies. If they start fighting on their motherland, the first thing the Americans, Europeans, whatever, India, would do is knock out their go-fast boats, which stealth jets could do as child's play. They would knock out these big barge-type boats that they have 50, 60 missile launchers on, child's play. Then they'd start damaging their ports where they load oil onto the boats. That's the end of their oil income. Then they would start bombing other infrastructure, military air bases, military Navy bases, military this, military that, weapons storage facilities, weapons manufacturing facilities. It would just be, it would take Iran a decade to recover from what could happen in a week. See, the Houthis, the air attacks on the Houthis have failed. Possibly they knocked out the Houthi radar, which has to be above ground. And the Houthis are relying on this Russian spy ship, this Iranian spy ship. If they get that Iranian spy ship out of the Red Sea, then the Houthis' effectiveness may go down by 80, 90%. But Iran isn't going to take their ship out unless you blow it up. That's it. That's the only way it's going to go out. The best and funniest thing would be to do if they could use the Navy SEALs to board the Iranian ship, take them all captive, and just steal the ship and take it away. That would be the absolutely slap shot on Iran. But it's probably militaristically rather ridiculous to try that because they probably have a lot of guys on the boat with guns and there would be a lot of deaths. So the whole thing is a big mess. So Israel's going to go to the meeting and they're going to say demilitarization of Hamas. We stay in Gaza. We want all the hostages back. We'll give you a ceasefire for a month or something like that. And after that, we're staying. We're not all leaving, and you're never going to be attacking us again. And Hamas has got to get to a point where they look at that on one hand, and on the other hand, they look at them being dead or in jail for the October 7th massacre, and they come to a decision as to what they want to do. The ones at the top have no interest in being martyrs, I promise you. That's just for the foot soldiers. The bosses, the top brass, they don't believe in that stuff. It's good for the line soldier, not for them. So Israel is going to just insist on these type of conditions. There's not going to be a two-state solution. They're not getting the West Bank. They're not letting the Palestinian Authority manage it. And all the hostages come. They're demilitarized. And we're taking provisions to make sure no more weapons come in from Egypt, because we'll have control of Gaza. See, the tunnels from Egypt don't go into Gaza 14 miles or anything like that. They go in a few hundred yards and they come out over there. You know that, and it's not hard for us to stop that. We can detect new tunnels and stuff like that. And that's it. So we're already attacking Rafah. So it's not that we're going to start. It's in process. And there's no real serious ground invasion, but we're bombing targets. And if they are scared enough, they'll throw the towel in. If they're not scared enough now, we'll wait a week or two. You know, by then the Rafah, attack will be well on its way. And it's going to take a week or 2 weeks to finish Rafah. It's not going to be much. They don't have much to fight with. They barely ever get missiles launched at us now. So once Rafah falls, that's it. Then military intelligence and Shin Bet go in there and round up the bad culprits, and they either get a death penalty or they'll get life in prison or amazingly long prison terms. And that's it. Now, if we put 3,000 or 4,000 of them in prison, it's going to be funny to watch Mahmoud Abbas try to pay them the slave to pay money. That's another way to break Mahmoud Abbas. Even if we put 1,500 in prison, which is a realistic figure, he's got to pay them, like what, $3,000 a month to their families while they're in prison. Break his back. That's it. So all these things are going on, and it's really complicated, okay? But Israel's not going to throw the towel in. We went these 4 months. We don't have much more to go. And the missiles have stopped. At least 95% of them, 98% of them have stopped. So they're really, they're trying to have gunfights with the soldiers, and the soldiers are in armored vehicles and tanks. They got air support and artillery support. I mean, they don't do well. They surrender in droves. They're disjointed. They don't have leadership. They don't have communications. Gaza's a mess. The sewage is gone. The roads are gone. The traffic lights are gone. The stores are gone. Houses, apartments are gone. Malls are gone. Everything is gone. What are they going to do? You know what I mean? We said that if they want to rebuild Gaza, nations that want to give them money that Israel approves of can give them money. A lot of that money is going to go back to Gaza, to Hamas, because they'll tell the construction companies, give us 20 or 30 or 40 or 50% of your money, and or we'll kill you. You got to, if you want to do the work here, you don't want to die, give us the money. Israel knows that, Hamas knows that, and the world probably doesn't know that. But what are they going to do with the money? They're not going to call Amazon and say, we want to order, 650 Katyusha rockets with 11-pound warheads. I mean, where are they going to get it? They got to get it in. They have no airfield. They can't go on the east. That's Israel. They can't go on the north. That's Israel. They could go on the south. That's Egypt. But we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And they could go on the Mediterranean, but our Navy makes sure that doesn't happen. So they're not going to be militarized. We got no place to send them. if we get them out of there. So let them stay there, but they're not going to have any military. It'd probably take us 10 years to get all the pistols and rifles and stuff out of there. So there's going to be flare-ups with terrorist attacks, but they're going to be like guerrilla fighter attacks, not serious. And, you know, every time we catch one of them with a gun or something like that, there's going to be interrogations. You know, you weed it out. So that's essentially what it is. It's very, very, very complicated. Okay, it really is. But I think America, Europe, India, and these other countries are going to have to hit Iran. The other fear is Iran may shut the Straits of Gibraltar by Morocco. They have IRGC soldiers in Morocco. Algeria, next door to the east, is all in on this. And if they do that, Europe ain't getting much food, much shipments in or out. Europe will suffer. The Red Sea's bad enough, but if they shut the Mediterranean, you have no idea how bad it would be. Now, there's an outside chance that after Hamas and Lebanon, Israel may go and start attacking the Houthis. We got refueling planes that would just refuel the jet fighters, and they would start bombing the Houthis. But the Houthis present precious little threat to us, and we're actually making a good amount of money on this new land crossing, where the ships land in Haifa or they land in the UAE, and they cross Jordan and Saudi Arabia to Israel and vice versa, and we're making port fees and offloading and onloading fees with the trucks. We're doing economically quite well with that. So I don't see Israel bombing the Houthis. Every now and then they try to hit us with a rocket, and 99% of the time it fails. We take it down. So there's a lot of pressure now. So if they get Israel to stop the Hamas war, they're hoping the Houthis will stop. And then they got to figure out how to get us to stop in Lebanon, or the Houthis are going to keep it up. And we're not going to stop in Lebanon until it's safe for the 80,000 people to go home. So this is probably going to come to a point where many, many nations are going to turn against us badly. Okay? They don't care if we get hit with missiles. They don't care if we get massacred, if the women get raped, the children get put in ovens, people get cut open alive and fetuses taken out of them. They don't care. They don't care. God cares. They don't care. So I hope I gave you a picture of the complexity of this thing. I do have a feeling there's going to be peace treaties that are going to be short-lived. And that's going to confuse the nations even more. Like after 2 weeks, Hamas starts launching missiles again, and then we say, heck, we go back in. And then the whole thing will flare up again, and the nations are going to go into confusion. Remember, in these days, you're going to see a lot of unexpected twists and turns. Okay? So if you like the video, subscribe, give it a heads up. That's what I got for now. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this, and I'm out.